One thing as a person of color growing up that I noticed and I got attached to is the diversity and inclusion of the cast. And this is like 20 years ago. And we're having conversations today about, okay, there's lack of diversity in the arts, but 20 years ago these people were able to do it. Can you talk a little bit about the diversity and the inclusion of this cast?
I mean, I think it's interesting that you bring that up because I've heard both sides of that. I've heard people say, and looking back, it's hard to say because I know we're much more switched on about diversity of all descriptions, be it color, be it sexuality, be it gender, everything. We're much more switched on now than we were 20 years ago. It's just that's a fact, it just is. And I have no recollection of it being one way or the other, but I've spoken to people and people have spoken to me and said that they feel like there is a lack of diversity at Hogwarts. And it's an interesting point. And it's interesting that you, as a person of color, see it as there being as it being a diverse place. And I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't something I was particularly aware of, but then I've never been somebody to particularly notice those kinds of things. People are people as far as I'm concerned, and I'm interested in them as individuals. So I don't want to open my mouth and say awful things like I don't notice color, but you know the characters in
Yeah.
in that situation. Do you know what I mean? You kind of that is that's Dean Thomas, or those are the Patil twins, or and that's about where I can stop on the diversity front. That actually,
Cho Chang,
there's
right?
not Cho Chang later on. To be fair,
Later on,
like
yeah.
she comes in. When does Cho arrive? Fourth
I think
film.
it
I
was the
wasn't
fourth
in
one,
that
yeah,
one.
Goblet of
Yeah.
Fire.
So we never. Yeah.
Not in the
Yeah. We
first
didn't
one, yeah.
actually work together. You see. So that's probably the thing, is that actually the diversity I think starts to kick in at about the third film. If I'm being honest. And I think where it's actually most noticeable, less so I'd say in the named characters, but more so in the sort of general array of wizardry world, is that it is a very diverse place. And like I think the better examples, certainly in the earlier films, of places like Diagon Alley, where there are wizards of all shapes, sizes, colors, and backgrounds. Like there's this magical and wonderful tapestry walking down the street, and you can see, and like that's some of the wonderful stuff, is that you look at these sort of these wizards, you've got Jamaican wizards in sort of really colorful robes, and you've got Asian wizards, and wizards from Africa and all sorts of different places that have their own sort of unique style within the wizarding world. It's not just pointy hats and cloaks.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
sure.
you can see where the costumes have kind of picked that up. It's less so at Hogwarts, it must be said, where everybody's wearing the same thing and it's all very uniformed. And to be honest, a lot of the main characters are predominantly white middle class
Yep.
characters. They are, and but that's what's written, and there's not much really
Yeah.
at that point, I think, that would have been done about that. I think in these days, if you'd made it now, I mean, for instance, look at Cursed Child, where you've got Hermione as a black woman.
Yeah,
There's nothing saying that Hermione can't be a black woman.
of course.
But in 1999, when the screenplay was being written, Hermione's a white girl, so you wouldn't think, nobody would have really thought to go, I know what we'll do. We'll make Hermione a person of color. Nobody would have done that. When that's, shocking to say that, but I think it's true. Well, one of the things that I've always loved about the Harry Potter fandom is, and I've always been really involved with the Harry Potter fandom, is because it's a wonderfully accepting place. And that really comes from the things that people find that they associate with Hogwarts. Is this place where outsiders are welcome, outsiders are celebrated. And I do a lot of work with the LGBTQ plus community, and the fandom around Potter and the gay community and the LGBTQ community is really, really strong. It has been going through a bit of a rough patch, let's say, for the last year and a half or so, unfortunately. And I hope we can kind of make progress there. But you look at fan fiction, and you look at how the fans talk about the characters and sort of come up with these sort of alternate canons for them. And I think it's wonderful that people that there is the ability to go, do you know what? It doesn't have to be what's written on the page. You know, Cursed Child has shown us that you don't have to cast as written. You know, people talk about Luna Lovegood being pansexual. People talk about Tonks being non-binary. I think that's where we are now, and that's where the Potter fandom arguably has been for a good 10 years before everybody else, really.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting to that point now where people are going, do you know what? It doesn't matter if a character is written as a white straight man. He can be played by you know, we can rewrite the character and he can become whoever he wants to be. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And the Potter fandom, through the wonders of fanfic, has been doing that for the last 10, 15 years or so. And that's, you know, that's progressive and that's wonderful.